make America powerful again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And we will make America great again.
Your Christianity is not the cowardly, wimpish Christianity that you want to make it. My Christianity is the Christianity that defeated Islamic Jihad 3 times. My Christianity is the Christianity that conquered the Roman Empire. My Christianity is the kind of Christianity that defeated the pagan Vikings and the northern pagan tribes. My Christianity is the kind of Christianity that defeated the Ottoman Empire, that defeated the Arab invasion of the 7th century, that defeated the Arab invasion in Andalusia, in Spain. Do you see? Oh no, this is where you're wrong, because the Ethiopian Christians who follow my kind of Christianity defeated the Muslim invasion from Somalia and Egypt. My Christianity is the one followed by the Armenians and the Georgians who defeated the Persians, Zoroastrians and the Muslims. My Christianity is not for wimps. You're complaining about it because you are.
No humor tonight. Man, what a 24 hours.
Yeah.
This every single person I have talked to. So all right, we Rob and I were like in the middle of a panel discussion, and I got a text from Taylor Marshall saying Charlie Kirk next shot, pray immediately. And I'm like, wait, what? I didn't know like what he meant. I wasn't sure if he was just saying like headshot, like somebody roasted him or something. You know what I mean? Like, you know how you'll say that sometimes, ooh, you know, he got a headshot. And like immediately I went to Twitter and I saw the long distance video.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, my heart hurt, you know? And then Rob showed me the close up.
Yep.
And there was something so psychologically damaging about seeing that close up. It's weighed heavy on my heart for 24 hours. My son called me last night. We had a conversation about it last night. My son's 19 and he loves Charlie Kirk clips. You know, he's always watching Charlie Kirk, you know, roast the college kids and stuff. And he just called me last night. He's like, Dad, I just can't get that image out of my head. It's just so like unnerving and unsettling. And I think that close-up video is what really has had such a psychological effect on every single person that I mean, everybody just has this feeling of sickness for the past 24 hours. How about you guys?
Yeah. I have a little bit of knowledge in you know, I don't have a medical background, but I understand a lot of medical things. And as soon as I saw that shot, I knew there was no way he was going to survive.
No,
I knew immediately. And in fact, one of the things that I was pretty certain of is that he was gone within a minute of being hit.
for sure.
Yeah, when they were circulating reports that he's in critical condition, Rob and I both just looked at each other like there's no chance because you see how quick the blood came out, and in some ways,
what was the location of the shot too?
Yeah,
I mean,
that
would have
carotid artery
and carotid artery. So I mean, you see that kind of that amount of blood, and even if they had a surgical team on hand right there on the stage at the minute that he was hit, the surgeon could not have saved him.
No, not possible.
That's what Rob said. Rob said even if they had blood on site and they could have replenished the blood, there's just when your body loses blood that rapidly, there's no way your brain can't recover from it. So
there would have been no reconstructing.
No,
there was nothing left to exactly.
Right.
There was nothing left to reconstruct. And that image was just so hard for everybody to see. And I just think everyone kind of, oh my goodness, that happened at his school. I think everyone just felt this feeling of the irony of his outfit being called Turning Point, right? Because this does seem like a turning point in the culture, in the country, everything. This doesn't seem like just another event that happened. As much as I thought the video we saw last week with the Ukrainian girl was the most horrific thing I had ever seen, this was probably the most. I don't remember being this like scarred from seeing something. Like I wasn't expecting it to hit me that hard, and then all of a sudden it just comes up in your feed over and over and over. And I said I have to get off Twitter. Like I can't actually be on here because everybody's reposting it, and I just couldn't see it anymore. So we go through that whole thing, and then today I have to fly home on 9/11 on a crystal clear day, flying into LaGuardia. I have that to deal with. Then I come home, and it turns out I have like a koi pond in my backyard that me and my wife built, and I have 25 fish in there. There's 7 left because a raccoon ate all of my and I'm talking koi we've had for 5 years. They're like 19 inches long, and I like normally I'm like they're fish.
No. Koi have personality.
And like I loved those stupid every day I come home and I'd feed the koi, like they'd see my shadow coming and they would like they'd know they're getting fed, and it was just such a hard day to come home.
Never mind.
What are you gonna say? You gonna make a joke, Rob? It's not
yeah, I know.
So it was funny because Rob and I were coming home, and I was on the plane, and I texted Rob and I go, "Hey, you think we should ask Hitchborn to come on tonight? Like he'd probably be a really good guest for this." Before Rob could answer, Michael texted me and he goes, "Hey, you got a little extra room on your show for me to pop on?" And I was like, man, it's just kind of, seemed like it was too perfect to not put us together. So,
well, as I was processing everything that was going on and looking at kind of the reactions to what happened, I mean, obviously the investigative mind in part of me is sitting there going, okay, who, what, when, where, and how? What was the motive? How was it done? Who did it? Did he have accomplices? I'm sitting there looking at all the details, trying to ascertain everything, but I couldn't get past thinking about Charlie, his wife, and his 2 little daughters.
It breaks me every time.
There's
every time I tried. Yeah. Every time I tried.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Every time I tried thinking about just reasoning my way through it and trying to just keep my rational mind going and focusing on investigating and doing what I do best, I just couldn't get past seeing pictures of him with his 2 daughters. Yeah. It kills me every single time I think about it.
Yeah, I put a tweet out today, something along those lines, and I don't mean to downplay people who don't have children, because of course anybody can empathize with it, but there was just something that just struck me as like just imagining, especially when their kids are so little like that. When you have little ones and they're 3 and 4, like I met Rob's son this weekend, and there's something. They're just so dependent on you and so dependent on fathers specifically. Like the thought of those kids. Melania Trump put out a beautiful tweet saying along the lines of Charlie's children will grow up with photos instead of a father, and they'll grow up with stories instead of memories, something along the lines of that. And it was just such a heartbreaking thing to read. Like, I think this really, it was just such a hard thing to process. And I'm still in the mourning phase, and I see people are moving to the next stage of grief, which is anger. And people are like, okay, what happens next? But I do think we need to stay cool and collected right now and understand the moment we're in our country, and that these things are probably going to happen in succession with a snowball effect.
Incidentally, I have to correct myself. Somebody pointed out, and they're right. A daughter and a son. I said 2 daughters. I meant, yeah, it was a daughter and a son. And you're absolutely right. We are in a situation, we're in a very precarious balance right now where there is a lot of anger. There is a lot of hurt. You pointed out the recent deaths in the opening show, the assaults, the attacks, the kids that were murdered at the school. You've got the Ukrainian woman that was murdered on the subway, and there's so much more. I mean, there's so much that's going on. I am reminded of what our Lord said to himself in Genesis just prior to announcing that he was going to send a flood. And that was that the hearts of men are set on evil at all times. All they think about is doing evil. And when you look at the kinds of people that are committing these heinous crimes, these heinous acts, it's very clear that there's a demonic spirit here. There's a satanic, hellish element to this. And I've been pointing this out ever since the whole Black Lives Matter thing really erupted in the summer of love in 2020, that the horror show that we're witnessing right now was an eruption from hell. What happened in 2020, and not to, rehash something that everybody already knows, but something changed fundamentally in this country during that summer. And I think what happened, because everything was locked down. It was locked down from Ash Wednesday to Easter. So you had an anti-Lent. Yeah. Lent is supposed to be a time of giving things up, of not indulging, of saying, you know what, I'm going to fast. I'm going to reduce my consumption of media so that I can focus and really kind of turn inwardly and look at my sins and do acts of penance and repent of my sins so that I can focus more on my Lord, the God who saved me on the cross. That's what Lent is all about. Instead, Netflix and Pornhub subscriptions went through the roof. So people were indulging instead of giving up. It was an anti-Lent. And that, of course, came to Easter, where we were still under the lockdowns. And what happened? You had empty churches. All the churches were empty. You had an empty Vatican. You had Pope Francis say mass in an empty church. Now, what's really crucial to understand about this is that we as Catholics, when we go and receive the Holy Eucharist, what we're doing is we are receiving the light of Christ like a lamp. We become lamps, little lamps into the world. A tabernacle is where our Lord resides in the church. Our Lady is a perpetual tabernacle because Christ is always with her. When we receive communion, we become little tabernacles. And so when we take Christ into the world after we receive Holy Communion, we bring those little lights of grace into the world with us. That didn't happen on Easter. The imagery of going into the church, lighting the candles one by one, the church is darkened and all of a sudden it gets brightened because everybody is holding a lit candle at the Easter Vigil. And it all comes from the fire that's lit outside the church. Okay. That's all at the Easter Vigil. We have this light that comes into the church, and from the church, that light goes out into the world. That didn't happen on Easter because nobody was receiving communion. And at the end of it, what happened on Pentecost? That's when everything was overturned. Suddenly people could go back out into public and you were allowed to do things. And so on Pentecost, what's supposed to happen is the light of the Holy Ghost descends from the heavens upon us like flames. And it's the light it is the flame that does not consume, because it's the same flame that we saw in the burning bush. It did not consume the leaves. But here, during that anti-Pentecost, you had a different kind of flame that welled up from below, the kind of flame that does consume, the kind of flame that is not of illumination, but of revolution. And from that point forward, everything changed. Yeah. Everything's been different ever since. So I think when we start to look at what happened, that was right about the time that Charlie Kirk was really kind of grinding the gears. He was really getting things going from that point forward. I think turning point came from around that time period. So Charlie Kirk, he was a light into the world. In fact, a lot of people, they a lot of Catholics, they understand, okay, he was a Protestant, but let me tell you something. He was going to mass with his wife. His wife who had actually left the faith. She was not practicing her Catholic faith. She was returning. She was coming back into the faith. There are pictures of the two of them going to mass. Charlie was changing his mind on certain aspects of the Catholic faith. He was telling Protestants they got it wrong on Mary. And I'm also getting reports that Charlie had recently had his marriage consecrated in the Catholic Church.
Convalidated, right?
Yes. And that he had been going to adoration. What Protestant does that?
Yeah. And
I got a DM from someone who says that they are close with the priest who was privately working Charlie through RCIA.
So there's a good chance. Yeah. Let me ask you something. So someone that's going through that, like, is that what we would say baptism of desire, right? Like that's what we would consider like somebody who's seeking it, but they just haven't completed the because he was baptized already. I understand
already
that,
baptized.
Yeah, I understand that.
So
but
no baptism, but
a confirmation of desire.
If he's already going through RCIA, he's committed himself to already going under the auspices of Rome, which means he was already Catholic. I mean, you don't just because, look, if you're baptized, you're a Christian, period. That's the way it works. Going through RCIA, coming from a Protestant background into the Catholic fold, once you make that commitment to go through RCIA and you've made that ascent of conversion, even without having going through the formalities of it, you're already in the faith.
Yeah. Now the thing is, like, I know everybody says, like, oh, I didn't agree with everything Charlie said. Yeah, of course, but there was something about Charlie
sometimes. So
it's like a silly thing to have to say, but obviously, like, I don't agree with everything Michael thinks. But there was something genuine about Charlie that was like, he just seemed genuine and what he was doing, and he just seemed like a good man. And every single story you heard from anybody who knew him in their real life, just they're heartbroken. Like, the people who actually knew him are heartbroken because he was a genuinely good man, a good Christian. And it's just one of those things where I think everybody that's normal, because you're seeing the reaction from people on the other side, and it's just beyond evil. And anybody that's normal is looking at this, and the first thing they think is those poor children. Like, his wife and children were at the event when this happened. And it's just, those kids are going to have to wait. Like, one day they're going to see that video, and I don't know, man. The whole thing is just really, really. I think it's galvanized the nation, where something's going to change at this point. And the conversation around right and left, I think, is silly at this point too. We're dealing with a group of people who are just completely out of their minds. This isn't normal left versus right discourse. I'm also not even sure what stories to believe from the media about what they're like about this being a trans shooter, things like that. I don't know what to believe. Everything is just such fog right now. Everything is so fog of war at this point that it's like they're going to feed you stories to get you mad at a certain person to help their narrative. But I'm so cynical at this point. I don't trust anything they tell us anymore. And I don't know, because you see it's a shot from 200 yards away. Looked pretty much like it had a precision hit. But then I'll hear somebody like Rob say it wasn't. No. I don't know what to believe on this. I'm not a sniper shot. So,
and you wouldn't give me 4 hours with you, and you can make that shot.
Yep. Yeah. A 200-yard shot with a scope, which
30-06
with 30-06. It's and you're talking about you're not trying to hit a small bullseye like this. You're trying to hit a mass.
Hitting center mass. They're probably actually aiming for his chest and maybe hit his neck.
A rifle like that, and it looked to be a pretty inexpensive 30-06. They usually have like an accuracy, and like an inherent accuracy of a gun is measured in what's called minutes of angle, MOA. And what that is, it basically at 100 yards, 1 minute of angle is equal to 1 inch. So it means that even if that gun doesn't move and fires at the exact same spot 5 times in a row, there's going to be a 1 inch spot, a 1 inch
That I could
circle
repair.
that it could land in, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
A cheap gun, a cheap, bolt action gun like that, you're looking 2, 3, maybe worst case 4 MOA. So let's say it's a 2 MOA gun at 200 yards. A 2 MOA gun means it's going to be 2 inches at 100. It's 4 inches at 200 then. And that, if you slow down the video, that bullet actually strikes the upper part of a armor plate that he was wearing. And it looks like, obviously I don't know for sure, but from the way it ricocheted, it looked like it was a steel.
You think he had a bulletproof vest on or something?
He most definitely did. Yeah.
Really?
So you see it hit here, and then it ricochets up into his
Oh,
neck.
Yeah.
Wow.
So if it hit here and it was a 2 MOA gun at 200 yards, that's a 4 inch circle. So they were, he probably was aiming center mass right at his heart, which, even a low power scope at 200 yards, you see very clearly. So it just means that a cheap bolt gun, that bullet landed in that 4 inch circle, which was in the upper part. And if it was a cheap steel armor plate without the anti-spalling technology, it ricocheted right up into his neck.
The crazy part is people talking about gun control. Like, this was a bolt action rifle. Like, there's no gun laws that they'd ever create that are going to prevent somebody from getting a rifle like that.
Every household outside of your big cities has at least one gun exactly like
that. Like, it wasn't an AR, wasn't a handgun. This is a rifle. This is a hunting rifle, essentially. So there's like the people trying to make this about gun laws. It's just such a silly thing. And this shouldn't be about that anyway. It's just a cruel, evil act that was committed. Now, we don't know who committed it. I just know I don't trust anything I get from the news or the government at this point. Like, I just don't believe anything they say. So I don't know. Michael, you posted a statement by Bishop Michael Burbidge, that you thought was pretty good, which is good to see from a bishop, right? Like, typically they run with the gun violence thing, but this bishop seems to actually have his finger on the pulse of what's going on. So as Americans, we are witnesses in just the past few weeks to a vicious pattern of political and social disorder at Annunciation Catholic Parish in Minneapolis, the killings of Harper and Fletcher, 2 innocent children in Charlotte, the murder of the Ukrainian refugee Irina Zarutska, and now political assassination of Charlie Kirk, known for his commitment to civil and rational discourse. We entrust each of these victims to God, our Heavenly Father and author of every human life, and His Son, Jesus Christ, the reason for our supernatural hope. What we see unfolding in our nation is a vicious pattern of hatred rooted in the rejection of God, of the dignity of the human person and the sanctity of the family. We can eradicate these ills only through a firm reliance on God, through a deeper devotion to Christ and the gospel, through a sincere love for persons reflected in law, and through a renewed commitment to justice and public order. We're living through a perilous moment. Our challenge is not only one of partisan disagreement, law, and policy, but in a deeper way, our challenge is to uphold the central goods of American political life, of faith, of families, and of national commitment to live together in harmony as brothers and sisters. Nothing about gun violence, nothing political, just we are living through something right now where this is good versus evil, and our culture and our society is just ripping apart at the seams. And it's so much to do with the evil that has been unleashed on the world. And it has a very big part to do with the church. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not going to say it's Vatican II, but it's kind of the whole malaise of the hierarchy in general, not preaching about sin, not talking to people about the reality of hell that has just crept into the entire world, it seems. And once the church stops actually preaching the truth, we've just left these souls to live in this filth, and man, evil just seems like it's growing rapidly at this point, and it just seems unstoppable, and the things that are coming down the pike don't seem like they're going to be better. Everybody looking for a political solution. Man, I don't think I've ever been more black-pilled on politics at this point. There's There's no politician you're voting in to fix this. Nothing. It is a return to Christ, or we are going to witness the collapse of the entire civilization that we know.
So I will say this: it's both and. It's both and, because in the one sense, we've gotten to the point where we can't rely on our political leaders to do what they're supposed to do. We can't rely on our law enforcement communities to maintain order in a disordered society. You just can't. So there is that spiritual element that must be engaged. We've got to do penance. Our Lady said that if you don't do penance, if you don't do the first 5 Saturdays, if you don't wear your brown scapular, if you don't pray the rosary daily, if you don't engage in the practice of the faith as she requested, well, then the consequences are going to be worldwide spread of communism.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what we're up against. So there is that element. We have to engage the spiritual. However, I will say that we also have to push for certain things within civil society to get a grip on the rampant insanity that has taken hold of every facet of our culture. And I want to read to you what I posted on because I wrote this. I was, as soon as Charlie died, actually, as soon as he was shot, I went and I grabbed a rosary. I immediately started praying my rosary, and I just went for a walk. And when I got back, I was hearing reports that he was already dead, but nothing official was coming out. It didn't come out for several hours later, but it was pretty clear to me that he just wasn't going to survive. So I was ruminating on things. I was just thinking about it. I was looking at some of the reactions, and some of the things that people were saying were starting to irritate me, because they were saying, well, we've got to make sure that we're not, this is the problem on both sides. There's just too much harsh rhetoric. People are just saying mean things.
Not what this is about.
Say mean things because that's what's going to cause problems. And it's like, look, stop, because all of the violence is coming from one side. And as I was thinking about it, I just started typing. I pulled out my phone. I was walking around my backyard. I just started typing. I'm going to read to you what I wrote, because I posted it on X the other day. I said, the time has come. There can be no civil discourse with the progressive left. Their entire position is built on a foundation of envy, and the only language they speak is rage. And the outcome will only ever be violence and death. The progressive left can't stand to see others succeed, so they demand to take from those who do. The progressive left hates the fact that others have good and beautiful things, so they tear down whatever they can. The progressive left despises innocence, so they seek to poison the minds and souls of children. The progressive left loathes God and the faith he gave us, so they do whatever they can to twist and suppress it. The progressive left abhors families, so they push to break them up. The progressive left has nothing but derision for true patriotism, so they foment revolution. There is nothing the progressive left won't do to get what it wants or to destroy what it can't have, and they will burn down their own homes just to spite anyone who crosses them. The progressive left is a criminal, terrorist, Marxist movement, and it is time that the ideologies behind it be made illegal. The ideology of Sodom, meaning anything tantamount to homosexuality, transgenderism, queer or other, must be made illegal. The ideology of Moloch, meaning the push for abortion, euthanasia, human sterility, must be made illegal. The ideology of Marx and Alinsky, meaning the envious socialism that demands tax structures to redistribute wealth, must be made illegal. All that is associated with the progressive left is filled with satanic hatred and rage, and it must be purged from our country if our civilization is to survive. So what I'm saying here is that you can't dialogue with somebody who thinks that the only way to win an argument is for you to die. And that's exactly what the progressive left
While I agree with every single thing you said there, this is not a simple question of the progressive left, and it's not. There is something so dark and evil afoot here. So when you look at the Ukrainian girl, that wasn't a political thing. That guy is just demonically
There
possessed.
was a member of the progressive left.
I'm sure, but this is so much more than just liberal Republican.
Well, let me
It's
explain
just so
why
much deeper than that. There is such a but I'm not disagreeing with you at all.
Yeah.
I just
let me
think
explain why though, because the philosophy matters. Philosophy matters. Everything about the progressive left is predicated on envy. Everything. So what they do is they turn to people who are oppressed or underpaid, or they have an ideology that's slightly different, or they want to have license to commit certain kinds of sins. And so what they do is they go to those people and they say, you know what? That person gets away with this.
Yeah.
That person has that. And they plant those seeds of envy in those people. And that envy grows like an evil weed in the mind.
Yeah.
And so that
definitely
envy, what
does.
does it do? It fuels rage. Necessarily.
What do you guys think of this? Because Austin said, I don't know what he means by 85%. I'm not sure what he means. I don't know if he's just maybe he thinks we're traditional. I'm not really sure, but
we are traditional.
I disagree. Yeah, obviously, but I disagree with 85% of what you guys say regarding theology. But simply now it is this question, us or them. So
they might be Protestant.
They could be Protestant, right? That's absolutely true. So there is something. We just watched what happened in Minneapolis, those Catholic school children. We just saw Charlie Kirk go through this. Charlie Kirk was a well-known Protestant. These kids were Catholic. Like, there is a level where when what is the Peter Kreeft quote? Something about like when brothers are when somebody's at war, fighting brothers reconcile. When there's an outside problem, fighting brothers reconcile. I don't know the exact quote.
When there's a maniac at the door, fighting brothers will reconcile.
Yeah, and there's a degree to which it's not just Catholicism they're going after. They are going after anybody who professes Jesus Christ. And I do think that I'm not saying we should do ecumenical outreach, but there is a degree to which it is us versus them, the people who don't have any of the light of Christ in their lives versus people who actually have some kind of a moral compass because they have Jesus Christ in their lives. Yeah. Like anyone who even follows the natural law, they hate, right? Feuding brothers reconcile when there's an enemy at the gate. Thank you, Rob. Bobby.
I'm Rob.
Damn yeah, you know what I mean. And Charlie Kirk was such a pivotal aspect of Trump getting elected too.
Why is Charlie Kirk the target? Because Charlie Kirk was talking about the natural law.
Yeah.
Because he was arguing from points from there's something called it's an indisputable truth. It's a self-evident truth. If I say this is my finger, it's a self-evident truth. I don't have to prove it to you. I don't have to go through a logical argument to prove it to you. It's self-evident. I can say this is my finger, and it's a self-defining statement. So there is no steps to proving it. Charlie Kirk was taking self-evident truths and explaining self-evident truths to people who couldn't embrace a self-evident.
They have no reason.
They
have no rational mind.
Right. There's no rational argument. They rejected their own biology. Which means they did violence to their own nature. And if you do violence to nature, what you're doing is creating such a wound, such a visceral wound in the self, that it has to have a violent explosion. It's like splitting the atom. You've done violence to the nature of an atom if you split the atom. Well, what do you think is going to happen psychologically and interiorly and spiritually to somebody if you split them from their biological reality? It's going to be an explosive force greater than the atom bomb.
Well, to also like reiterate what you were saying, Rob, why don't you bring up the Elon Omar clip? Like, this is because she's not even like one of the psychos over on TikTok who are like cheering on Charlie's.
Well, I mean, she is a psycho.
She is, 100%. But she's on a who is she talking to? I don't know who that guy is. I forget it. Like Hassan Piker or something she's talking to, I think. But just look at how they rationalize this. It's insane that they will actually say he brought this upon himself because of things he said. And to Michael's point, like all he did was say things that are just naturally evident for anybody with a rational mind. And they consider this bringing this upon himself. It's Mehdi Hassan. I thought it was Hassan Piker. Yeah.
They're all the same hand.
Yeah. Same difference. Yeah, let's pop that video up.
What I do know for sure is that, you know, Charlie was someone who once said, you know, guns save lives after a school shooting. Charlie was someone who was willing to debate and downplay the death of George Floyd in the hands of Minneapolis police.
I think he called him a scumbag.
Right, have no regard, downplay slavery and what Black people have gone through in this country by saying Juneteenth should never exist. And I think, you know, there are a lot of people who are out there talking about him just wanting to have a civil debate.
Complete rewriting of history.
Yeah, there is nothing more effed up, you know, like than to completely pretend that, you know, his words and actions have not been recorded and in existence for the last decade or so.
Yeah, you can turn this off. I mean, you guys get the point. It's like, this is what Michael's talking about. Like, these people, they don't see a father who lost his life. They see someone who goes against their ideology, brought this upon themselves because the things Charlie said are so bad that he deserved it. Like, that's essentially what they're saying. This it's beyond reprehensible.
Yeah, it's extremely upsetting and infuriating to see the kinds of visceral reactions that people are having, and almost the celebratory and self-laudatory tones that they're taking. It's disgusting, but it's also part and parcel for that entire movement. These people trade in Schadenfreude. They live in it's a prideful disdain for anything good, true, and beautiful. And Charlie, he was not an aggressive or an imposing or even a snarky figure. He didn't use snark or sarcasm at all. He spoke truth in charity. He was always only loving to the people that, I mean, even when people were getting in his face and yelling at him and cutting him off and saying terrible things to him, he responded with the kindest and most charitable things I'd ever heard from somebody debating these matters. You know, and he would have been justified to say something nasty or awful back to them. He would have been justified, and he never did. And I mean, I really admire him for that. I think that it's incredibly laudable, and it was a virtue. And what he was expressing was true Christian charity.
Yeah.
Do you guys know if this is true? Hold on. That today Lofton has been attacking Charlie Kirk?
Oh, I hope not. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I did see people like, I mean, Lofton is whatever. He might be right on the Israel question, but I don't care. That's not, you know, and Charlie was coming around on that.
Yeah.
Charlie was coming around on that. Anthony and Rob should start considering wearing vests. It's interesting because, like,
I'm not big into suits.
But not even that. Like, he's Charlie Kirk is a different stratosphere, right? But
you did make a decision today.
Which one? Oh, okay. Like he's in a totally different realm than us, right? But he's in the same field as us in some way. And Robin made the point. He's like, Anthony, you never know what loony you're going to trigger with your tweets. Even like that's the point we're at in time right now, where you could. Because I do provoke people. Charlie didn't seem to do that, is what the point Michael was making, right? Charlie did seem to try and go out in a gesture of goodwill and have conversations about these things. He changed tons of people's minds, especially young people, right? He got so many people to change their minds. But there are so many people who do what we do, who go for the rage bait and try to get the hot clickable moment by the 60-second roast or something, where it just, anybody in this arena now has to think differently about how they go about things. We're not in a time where you can just go and do these live events at a college campus anymore, because everybody's and that's part of what they were trying to accomplish with this, is terrorize everybody from even engaging on college campuses, where the minds are the most malleable to hear the truth. Because kids, when they're at that age group, that's when you actually want to confront them, which is why the leftists are always trying to take over schools. So what Charlie was doing, even what Steven Crowder did with the change your mind stuff, all of that stuff had such a huge effect on the culture. It's what got Gen Z men to switch from being liberal to conservative, I think. And I think part of whatever this whole thing was an attempt to scare people off from continuing on that road and helping young men come out of the rut of leftism that they grew up on in public schools.
Yeah. I think that as we look at the situation, we start considering what people are saying and the kinds of anger that was directed at Charlie Kirk and still continues to be directed at him. It was an irrational anger. And what they were angry about is the fact that he was causing them pain, because the truth, if you think of a lie as a broken bone, okay? Let's say every lie you tell breaks a bone in your body. And when you have to double down on a lie, or you make the lie even worse, you're bending yourself even into a worse shape. You're harming yourself in ways that you can't even imagine. Now, imagine that the remedy for that lie is the truth. And the truth's told in charity, not just a nasty truth and a flippant truth, but you're telling the truth, you're explaining the truth. And what you're doing is you're resetting that wound. You're taking that bone and you're putting it back into its proper place. Yeah. And what the patient is doing is the patient is screaming, ouch, and he's pointing a finger at you saying, you hurt me. You caused me pain. And that's where that visceral reaction towards Charlie Kirk is coming from. They are upset that he is setting their pain back into the forefront of their mind. And now they're blaming him for the pain that they're in, when what he was doing was actually helping to heal them.
You want to know what's interesting, man? I saw two things today. Rob texted me, or he texted our group chat, and he said, I feel kind of awful about some of the things we criticized Charlie for in the past, right? But
me, like the review we did of his talk with Knowles. Like, I don't even remember what I said, but
it wasn't charitable at the least, right? So
yeah.
You had felt some guilt about that, and I saw a lot of the groypers coming out today and saying as much. Like, I saw one kid say, I feel awful about the things I said about Charlie today. I realized I'm an awful person, right?
Did you see a few under that tweet though?
No.
The account Awesome Jew?
Yeah.
They replied with like something like, I realize that too. I'm gonna work to be better or something. And then they're like, are you going to be less anti-Semitic now? And that person goes, no, more actually. They tried for a tweet.
But there's an interesting thing that's actually happening in this, in that somebody who was very critical of Charlie then sees this happen, and it's almost like a shock to their conscience, right? And there's a moment of reflection, and all of a sudden they realized, oh man, I need to go to the confessional, right? Sometimes events like this, as awful as they are, and I'm not saying this is a silver lining even, but they can reveal our own hearts in some ways, right? I watched secular libertarian Dave Smith's take on this and Charlotte, and he sounded almost just as Catholic as this show, talked about satanic people. Normies are starting to wake up. Yeah, I think so. Dave's not an atheist. Dave has come around to believing in God. I know that. I'd like to get him on one day. He's just so hard to get him. But like even him, he's buddies with Charlie, right? And Dave is sometimes at these public events. So for him to see something like this happen to his friend, he has to be thinking, man, this could have just as easily have happened to me. Like this could just as easily have happened to any one of the people in the public sphere that are going to these, you know, large scale events. This guy was hidden on a roof 200 yards away and fired this shot off. I don't care how good your security is. Sometimes they're going to miss something like that.
Right.
But the
well,
idea,
and just to point to that out, you know, a lot of people are saying, going, oh, maybe this was an inside job. Maybe there, you know, you saw the hand signals from the guy with a white hat and the hand signals from the guy in the black shirt. And look, stop. Charlie Kirk was not a politician. He didn't have a Secret Service detail.
Yeah.
He didn't have heavy duty personal guard protection. He had a bodyguard, and the guy in the black shirt, I'm pretty sure, was one of his bodyguards. I don't think he was giving hand signals to a shooter, but you know, instead of trying to look for the conspiracy theory, which is very easy to do, especially given our day and age, but instead of giving into conspiracy theories, let's just look at the facts and be very matter of fact about it. There was a shooter. That shooter was on a roof. There was not a security detail that was going around sweeping every single nook and cranny of that particular campus to try and find different angles by which somebody could get on a roof and fire a shot. That just wasn't going to happen. That's not the kind of personality that Charlie Kirk was. He wasn't a politician. He wasn't even an A-list actor or something like that, who does hire big security teams to do stuff like this. He was a political commentator and activist. And we have to put this into perspective and say, this is not a situation where we would look for inside jobs and security details that help this happen. That's not this.
Yeah, no. Well, first off, nobody's going to be cowed into silence. Everybody's still going to speak, but you will re-examine how you go about doing public events. I don't care what anybody says.
Sure.
Like all these guys who do these public events are going to reevaluate their security. They just
Ben Shapiro just canceled a bunch of his speaking.
Yeah, and he said he's going to do them again, but it's just
right.
You have to reevaluate how you do security in these things. The other thing is with when it comes to like seeing the conspiracy, I'm going to tell you, I don't know what this was. I'm probably not going to trust what they tell me it was. I don't know what it is. Like I'm not going to say it's Mossad, you know what I mean? But I also just don't trust anything, and I don't know if there is some grand scale. I don't know what the play would be in this regard, other than to rile up sectarian violence, right? Just other than to just cause more, to escalate the tensions in our country, to cause more mayhem with it. Because the best way to conquer someone is to divide. Like a divide and conquer strategy works very well when you're looking to take down a nation.
Yeah, that's canceled that for sure now, guys.
Yeah, I did like seeing that some people were starting to do a little self-reflection, and maybe we have to think about how we talk about people in general online. Like maybe we have to reevaluate how we have any conversations, because man, people are nuts these days. What did Taffy say? There was an individual after the shooting with his pants down, reportedly yelling, "I'd do it again," which created a distraction and enabled the shooter to evade police. Fact, that is true. Yeah, there's a lot of strange things.
Sure.
This doesn't necessarily mean like this could the lone gunman, man, it had an eerily similar vibe to the Trump thing.
Sure.
It just did.
Let's take that for just a second. I want to explain when we start looking at this, we can't just look at it in 1 or 2 dimensional space. We have to look at it in 4-dimensional space. Okay. There is an element to this that is spiritual, and we don't know how much of this is, a coordinated human activity, or is there something of a higher nature going on here?
Yeah, it's true.
That is taking care of things behind the scenes. And I want to tell you a little story that kind of puts this into perspective. I'll tell you 2 stories, actually. One, my former boss, when I was at American Life League, his name was Jim Sedlak. Please pray for him. He died of a heart attack a number of years ago. Jim was the founder of Stop Planned Parenthood. He was the #1 enemy to Planned Parenthood. And he would annually go to Planned Parenthood's major conventions. Wherever they were held, he would go there, and he would just hang out in the lobby and be a presence. People would sneer at him and stuff like that, but he'd pick up pamphlets and stuff like that. and just kind of go about business that way. Well, he told me about this one Planned Parenthood convention that he went to. He said that as he was going into the hotel room, there was a group of people that were kind of gathered in a circle, and they were all just kind of chanting this weird chant. And he thought it was really odd. He got a weird sense about them. And he went up to his hotel room and he looked down and he saw them all in a circle, and they were rising up. They were doing this chant. And then they let out a yell. And when they did, the chant was over. Now, he said there were, 100, maybe 200 people just kind of milling about in the courtyard, just wherever nearby the hotel. But as soon as they finished their chant, all of a sudden, everybody in that area went nuts. They went absolutely bonkers, and they started rioting, tossing things over. They just went crazy. There's a spiritual element to this. There's another story I'll tell you. One of my college professors was driving home from Adoration one evening, and he came to a four-way stop. This is at like 2 a.m. There's no one on the road. He comes to a stop, and he's just continuing to pray on his way back from Adoration. He's just praying mentally. And as he's at this four-way stop, another car approaches, and it's at the four-way stop, and they're facing each other. They're waiting for the light to turn green. And before the light turns green, the window of the other car rolls down, and he just yells right at my college professor, "Shut up! Shut up!" How would they know that he was praying? How would they know he was even speaking? So you start looking at situations. This guy who pulled his pants down said, "I'd do it again. I'd do it again." We don't know if there is a demonic influence involved in this. So rather than taking speculating with circumstances, we have to look through this and say the only way that correlation is not causation. So you have to wait for the evidence to come in to say that there was a connection.
Yeah. Look, there's anybody who's prayed at abortion clinics will tell you how crazy people get whenever they're faced with Christ. I mean, these people are demonically possessed or oppressed, and whether they recognize it or not, that's a visceral reaction. There's even, I think there was a video of them doing a Eucharistic procession through New York, and like you'd have a lot of people would drop to their knees and make the sign of the cross, and then some people would just react vilely. They just being around the Eucharist would make them, completely lose control, things like that. I think I want to go over to locals, and I think we're going to open up the StreamYard again and allow people to come on. Michael, you all right with hearing from some of the listeners? And
yeah, sure. One more thing that I want to say before our YouTube audience has to go to bed. I also wrote this on social media because I was talking about the problem of, look, Charlie Kirk was all into the discourse. He was all into the dialogue. He wanted to have that conversation. He was helping people one-on-one. And this is absolutely essential. But there comes a point where you have to look at the people of a particular philosophical outlook, and you realize that there is no dialogue to be had. And what I wrote is this. I said, debate and discourse require people of goodwill. But you cannot debate with somebody who has no sanity to reason with, no humanity to appeal to, and who only wants to kill, destroy, and take. That is the radical left. And that is what we're up against.
Agreed. Somebody's saying this is too important. Keep it on YouTube. No, it's too important. Go pay for a local subscription. Tired of you guys not paying for local subscriptions.
If we keep it on YouTube, there's a better chance we're going to get someone to just wants to troll. We're not going to do that. So maybe we'll post it in a day or two on YouTube so people can watch. But no, you have to be a locals member to
no, and what I would like to do is, like, especially some of you younger guys, if you guys, if this affected you in a certain way and you want to share it. I know a lot of people just kind of want to just express their sorrow, things like that. If you guys have any questions, if you guys want to come on and ask advice, we got Michael on the block tonight, so Michael can maybe help some guys out if they have any advice they need, anything like that. But I like bringing the local supporters on and giving them a chance to come and meet their pals and hear from them a little bit. So I think we might start doing that a little more often. We're not going to just do like full advice shows, but maybe when we go over to locals, we'll start letting you guys pop on. So if you guys aren't local subscribers, please join us over there. That is where we have all the fun.
And if you're in the live chat now, I pinned the direct link to the local show in the live chat. So,
Michael, anything to promote? You got anything coming up, or you have anything you want to?
Yes. We've been going after the Association of U.S. Catholic Priests big time, especially since we put out the video showing that there were priests at that conference that were talking about sexual self-abuse. You know what I mean by that. I'm using a euphemism. Yeah. And they were calling it a prayer, very blasphemously, it was just awful. Well, we know that the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops is partnering with the AUSCP on a particular project. We have a report on that coming out tonight. My researcher is putting together the article now. We're going to be sending a press release on it tomorrow morning. That report will be coming out tomorrow morning, and we'll be circulating it around as much as we can. On top of that, I have additional information from the AUSCP's meeting in June that ties directly into all of this trans insanity that we've been dealing with for the last couple of years.
Yeah, and we need our hierarchy to actually start addressing this issue for what it is. Like, I'm so tired of this James Martin approach to this issue. The only way to actually get them to address it is for people like Michael to keep putting this public pressure on them. So thank you for everything you do, Michael. All right, guys, we're going to wrap this up. We're going to head over. You need to get Michael back on soon for a non-sad episode so you guys can use the funny Hitchborn intro.
Taffy made a funny intro that we have not been able to use twice now.
We will play it on locals. How about that?
No.
There's a
no, man.
Okay. All right. Sorry, you guys got to wait. Yeah, it's interesting because you came off of the Minneapolis shooting as well. Yeah. So the last 2 episodes you came on, we couldn't do a funny intro video, but I mean, we have Michael on all the time. He's like our best friend. So we'll get him on again soon. Don't worry, guys. All right, we'll see you guys on the other side. Rob, take us out, brother.
No, wait, no.